Right. Okay, so I guess the kids have joined us, and I'll start in a minute.
Yeah, it looks like there's still some in the waiting room trying to get in.
Yeah. I think everybody has joined the session.
It looks like there's still two trying to get in.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I'll start now. We've got quite a few kids here. So hello everyone. I hope all of you are fine. We are rolling out a brand new research program in collaboration with International Research Institute, North Carolina, and it's a big deal. Unfortunately, in Pakistan, a research game, especially at the university level, is not quite up to par. Plus, we haven't fully grasped the importance of research, especially when it comes to scoring admission at your dream universities. And that's where Ion Ivy and the International Research Institute, North Carolina, come into play. We are offering Pakistani students a chance to dive into research, even from afar. We think it's unfair that a young talent doesn't get enough opportunities to learn and grow. Research is a game changer, especially in the field of science, and it's essential for pushing human progress forward. That's why we're always excited to bring these fantastic opportunities to our students so they can stay abreast of what's happening in the academic world. Now, students, here's a question for you. Have you ever had a chat with a real life scientist? I'm not talking about the scientists you see in Hollywood movies, but the folks who roll up their sleeves, work in actual labs, and come up with groundbreaking technologies. To be honest with you, until a few days ago, I had never had that opportunity, but I'm thrilled to introduce you to one right now. So, students, meet Dr. Robert Malkin, former Dean of Duke Pratt School of Engineering, a researcher, inventor, and someone who's passionate about passing on knowledge to the next generation. He's the real deal. He is all about designing medical equipment for areas that need it the most. Over at Duke, he is a big shot in the fields of biomedical engineering and global health. He even earned a spot on the today's engineering heroes list by IEEE in 2015 for his remarkable work. One of his standout inventions is the Pratt pouch. It's like a ketchup packet, but it holds life-saving antiretroviral drugs. This ingenious creation has saved countless lives in South America and Africa. It's so remarkable that the World Health Organization featured it on their list of the top 10 most innovative health technologies back in 2012. Dr. Malkin isn't just a science genius. He's also the brains behind several organizations. He's penned a ton of articles in top-notch journals, and he's even authored a book. And if that's not impressive enough, he is the mastermind behind the International Research Institute of North Carolina, where you can get hands-on with some serious science in fancy university labs. He has a long list of accomplishments, and he's here to share some wisdom about why research matters and what this science competition is all about. So say hello to a true science genius, Dr. Robert Markin. Over to you, Bob.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was a very nice introduction. I feel honored to be here. Thank you, everybody, for coming this morning. I really appreciate your time, or this afternoon for you guys. It's morning for me. As Aaron mentioned, my name is Bob Malkin. I'm a professor of the practice of biomedical engineering and global health at Duke University and the academic director at IRI. And I'm really excited to be able to introduce today the science competition, the Ion Ivy IRI science competition, a great opportunity for you to get involved firsthand in science. And a great opportunity for you to win some prize money. Also, you have the opportunity to get some discounts on IRI's programming if you're a winner, and get internationally recognized for your science work and for your innovations. So Aaron mentioned this, and I just want to spend a few seconds to talk about this. Research is becoming very important to your college application. Harvard, for example, said that substantial scholarship can elevate your application. UPenn boasted that nearly a third of their applicants showed research on their college applications. Yale, Columbia, and Brown encourage research. My own university, Duke University, looks very seriously at research as well. So this can be important. So this brings up a couple of questions. First of all, what type of research are we talking about, and why? Why are universities focused on this? Well, first of all, let me address the first one, what type of research? When we talk about research, what a university means is academic research or scholarly research. That is research which is, first of all, systematic. It's using primary sources, so original research data. And it is, in the case of a high school student application at college, it is formally written up in a formal, detailed and citation-rich format. Why bother? Well, as long as I've been doing this, and I did admissions work at Duke and at my previous universities as well, as long as I've been doing this work, we've been looking for essays from students as part of a college application. The reason for that is we want students to demonstrate clarity of thought and clarity of expression. If you can do scholarly research, and especially if you can get that published, you've already demonstrated a couple of those key skills, clarity of thought and clarity of expression. And so these are, research is a way to demonstrate skills and abilities that we've always been looking for in applicants to competitive institutions, competitive universities. And for you as well, this can really make a difference. As Aaron mentioned, for a lot of students, it can be actually quite difficult to execute a research plan. Ideally, in the perfect world, you would join a lab in your local city. You would go to the lab 2-3 times a week or whatever, and you would experience what it's like firsthand in person. But these spots are very difficult to find. It's very difficult to find in-person laboratory spots. There are very few of them. They're very competitive. University faculty have a lot of pressure, and so they tend to favor postdocs, graduate students, even over undergraduates, and certainly over high school students in the lab. So a lot of high school students are looking to remote research as a way to fill this gap. So what about remote research? Remote research is, first of all, exactly what it sounds like. It's research where you have no physical meetings with your PI. You never physically go to the lab. In fact, you can be anywhere in the world and be working with a faculty member who is also anywhere else in the world. There are no physical meetings. There are some blended programs as well, but that's not what I'm talking about here. Here I'm talking about completely remote programming. According to the Chronicle of Higher Education, like 12,000 students a year are participating in these remote opportunities. That's a lot. That's a lot of students. And so this is something that you could consider getting into. Now, a lot of people become concerned when I talk about remote research because they feel that it limits the type of research that they can do. And this is, of course, true. There are some types of research that you simply must be in person to accomplish. But I did want to just give you a flavor of what you can do remotely by just sharing a couple of things, a couple of recent publications from my lab with high school students. For example, this is a paper I published with Sanjana Anand in 2021. Sanjana was a high school student at the time that this paper was published and when she did the work as well. And the title is The Effect of Vaping on the Immune System. What Sanjana did is she surveyed about 1,000, 2,000 people, I can't remember exactly, about their cold and flu symptoms as a surrogate for the immune system and their vaping habits. And indeed, she found that people who vaped had more frequent cold and flu symptoms. And those who vaped more had more severe cold and flu symptoms. Interesting, though she originally assumed it would be the nicotine in the liquid, she actually found it didn't matter what they were vaping, perhaps indicating that the heavy metals from the vaporizer itself released into the body are affecting the immune system. And again, Sanjana did this completely remotely. I have met her since, but when we did the research, I had never met Sanjana. This was a completely remote program for her. Here's another one, Ashwin Arora. This was published just last year. I have still never met Ashwin. I did this work completely remotely with Ashwin. He was interested in stroke victims and other people with brain damage will lose their grip strength, so they can't lift a cup, for example. So Ashwin developed an exoskeleton. You can see it pictured here on the right. And this exoskeleton allows them to strengthen their grip to the point where they can lift a water bottle or lift a cup, for example. And again, done completely remotely. I have, in fact, never met Ashwin face to face. So yes, doing remote research does limit the types of research that you can do, but there's still a lot of significant research that you can do. And that's what we want to see for the science competition. We want to see your amazing research. So let me tell you a few details about the science competition. And I'm going to kind of cover a few details and also mention a few things about getting involved with IRI if you decide to go that direction. And then I will pause to answer questions, which you can just type in the chat window and I'll answer them later on in the talk, after the talk. So let's talk about the science competition. This is your chance, as I mentioned, to win prize money, to get international recognition for your work, to get discounts to programs, and to really elevate your application to a competitive university. There are some entry requirements to consider. First of all, you need to be in grades 10 or 11. The competition will start with an abstract. So you'll submit a one-page abstract, just one page summarizing your work that covers the background, methods, results, and the analysis of your work. You must provide original research. So this is not an opportunity to review other people's research. That's an interesting activity, and IRI supports that activity, and it's part of research, but not the research competition. This research competition is for your original research, so your new experimental data. Also, the analysis of other people's data sets, also an important activity, but that is also not part of the competition. You must do the research to compete in this science competition. Step number 2, in the springtime, the best 10 abstracts will be selected by our US faculty review committee. It could be fewer even than 10. They'll be selected as finalists. They'll be notified soon after. All the finalists will be interviewed. Our review faculty, our review committee is all US university faculty. So you're going to be interviewed by a faculty member from some US university. You'll have about 3 minutes to present your research, roughly, and then about 7 minutes to answer questions about your research. We'll be very strict about the time because there will be quite a few interviews to do. This is all going to happen very quickly once you're selected as a finalist. So you will need to prepare and practice. You'll have about a week or so, maybe 2, after you've been selected as a finalist, and before you have to prepare, before the interviews. So that's about amount of time that you'll need to prepare. The winner will get $250 US. That's first prize. Second prize is $150, and third prize is $100, as well as a 10% discount to IRI's Data to Publication program. That's a program, I'll talk just a little bit more about programs in a minute, but that's an IRI program. And most importantly, this gives you an opportunity to publish your work. A publication in a peer-reviewed, archived, index vector-rated international journal can really make a difference in your college application. Just to let you know the deadlines, competition is open already, so you can start working on your work right now. In fact, you can include research that you've completed even in the past, but the abstract deadline is April 15th, 2024. So you have, roughly 6 months to complete the work. The week of April 22nd, so roughly 1 week later, we will complete the interviews. So you'll have roughly 1 week, maybe 2, to prepare for the interviews if you're selected as a finalist. Again, those interviews are 3 minutes of presentation, 7 minutes answering questions. And then May 6th, the winners will be announced. So that's the timeline. Gives you roughly 6 or 7 months from now to finish up your work or start the work and finish the work. You'll be submitting it, it's all remote, so it's 100% electronic. You submit your abstracts to me at my IRI email address, robert.malkin@iri-nc.org. Just a few more details. These are kind of fine points about the competition. Teams are absolutely accepted. Plenty of research is done as teams, and your ability to demonstrate teamwork in your college application is preferred, in fact. So teams are definitely accepted. If there is prize money awarded to a team, it's split evenly between all named members of the team, and each team member will receive the same discount to IRI programming. Acceptance into IRI programming is not guaranteed if you win the competition. You still need to apply to IRI and meet all the admissions criteria. Now, many students who participate in science competitions around the world will reach out for help. IRI offers several programs. There's no requirement to participate in IRI's programs, but you can participate in IRI's programs, and it may help your program and your science competition. A few things to consider if you are going to reach out for help from IRI, or there are other organizations as well. First of all, mentorship. If you are going to reach out for help, be sure that you're reaching out to a full professor. That's somebody who is an assistant professor, associate professor, or what we call full professor, usually just titled professor. You don't really want to reach out, for example, to a graduate student or graduate candidate or a PhD candidate. They simply don't have the depth of experience that a professor will have. A professor will be able to work with you and move your science forward farther, faster than some of these other folks. At IRI, all students work with professors from US universities. There are a couple different types of programs offered by IRI, as well as other organizations as well. Introductory and in-depth programs. For the science competition, you want to be a little careful with introductory programs. IRI offers introductory programs, and it's a good way to start your research. They typically are 4 to 8 weeks, but they are exactly what they sound like. These are introductory programs. They'll get you started on your research, and they're excellent for that. They're very good for getting you started. Generally, your deliverables are going to be the literature review. Literature review is an important first step for anyone's research. But keep in mind, if you join IRI's introductory program or someone else's, that won't be enough to compete in the science competition. You're going to need to join an in-depth program. At IRI, the in-depth program is called the RA program. The introductory program is called the introductory program. The in-depth program or the RA program is 1 to 2 years. However, if you start now on IRI's RA program, you can complete a substantial amount of research by April of next year. So you will probably have enough work. You're working hard. You probably will have enough work to be very competitive for the competition in April. Here, the deliverable is a publication for IRI's RA program. Now, I do understand that there are other organizations out there. Just please, if you do decide to use another organization, watch out for their titles. There's a lot of titles like advanced and in-depth and other titles, though the programs themselves only last 8 weeks or 10 weeks. A program that only lasts 8 or 10 weeks is going to be an introductory program. What you really want to look at is what is the deliverable. Remember that the deliverable for the science competition is original research. That's an in-depth program, or what IRI calls the RA program. Most other programs are introductory programs. No matter what the title of the program is, they're introductory programs, meaning the deliverable is a literature review, not enough to be in the science competition. IRI, as well as other organizations, have individual and group formats. As I already mentioned, teamwork is awesome. There's nothing wrong with doing your work as a team, and teams can join as a group in a group program. Keep in mind, for your college application, you want to make sure that you have an easily definable part of the research. It's perfectly fine to do a group program, including IRI's group program, for the science competition. But for your application, you want to be able to discuss your specific part of the project. What was your intellectual territory for the project? And keep in mind that your letter of recommendations are not going to be as strong because your faculty member, mentor, is working with several different students, not just with you. Individual programs, of course, are one-on-one with a mentor. So let me just review some key points here before we go on to how to apply. First of all, the deadline for submission of abstracts is April 15th, 2024. You need to be doing original research. This isn't literature review or analyzing someone else's data. You need to be doing original research for the science competition. If you decide to join IRI's program, IRI definitely offers programs in support of the science competition. Of course, you can join IRI's program and choose not to compete. IRI's programming includes introductory programs. Those are short and a great way to get started in your research. We include the RA program. That's an in-depth program. And it is a great way to do the research for your competition or simply to improve your college application. We also offer the program I mentioned, the Data to Publication program. That's the program for those who win or even become finalists in many cases for the science competition. And then you want to move on to publish your work. IRI offers group and individual formats as well. If you are interested in competing with the competition, submissions go to my IRI email address, again by April 15th of next year, robert.malkin@iri-nc.org. That's on the left. And also, I'd be glad to answer any questions by email about the competition. You also can email me at my Duke email address. That's same name, robert.malkin@duke.edu, and that's in the bottom right-hand corner. In both cases, it's my name, robert.malkin@duke.edu. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and if you do have any questions, all you need to do is type those in the chat window, and I will take a look at the questions and answer them for you.
Anybody who wants to ask any question about either the science competition or IRI's research programs, you're welcome to, just type a question and Dr. Malkin will reply to your question.
So while we're waiting for questions, let me just mention a couple other small details about the competition. We're encouraging applications from all areas of science. So you do not need to be focused on engineering. That's my background, is engineering. But all areas of science are welcome, including the social sciences. So if you're interested in science, it doesn't matter what your interest is. We will be accepting any science application from any field of science.
Yeah. So there are a few questions.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. So you can see the questions. You can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. So the first question I see is how to apply for the competition. So application is very simple. All you need to do is submit an abstract of your work on April 15th of next year. So you can start your work at any time that you want, or you could even have done some of the work already. But the abstract is due, and that's how you enter the competition, a one-page abstract in April of next year. That's the only application that's required. Now, if you want IRI to be supportive of your work by joining the introductory program, for example, or the RA program, then you will need to fill out an application. You can find those applications at iri-nc.org online. You just click on apply. It's very easy to do. Another question, are there some other fields of research that IRI can take a look into? So yeah, absolutely. So for the research competition, all areas of science are welcome. Social science, human science, sports science, of course, biology, physics, chemistry, mathematics, and engineering, but any area of science is welcome. IRI supports the STEM field. So if you wanted to use IRI to support your work, then it would be biology, chemistry, physics, mathematics, and engineering. But again, for the competition, we accept any area of science. So you can do your work in any area. Next question is, what does IRI focus on? And again, IRI focuses on biology, chemistry, physics, mathematics, and engineering, including computer engineering, neuroscience, and basically all the fields that fall under all of those categories. Is there any restrictions related to the scope of your work? Is the next question. So this is a really great question. There is no restriction here. In fact, there's no obligation for you to have published your work. Your work can completely proprietary, meaning you own all of the data, you own all the work. There's not a requirement even that you've completed the work. Very often people will enter science competitions, including myself and very experienced scientists, with incomplete or small data sets. That is absolutely acceptable. So the scope of the work can be from simply a small beginning work that you've got some original data, but it's not completed, to a complete piece of work where you've completed the entire data set, the completed analysis, and perhaps it's ready to publish. So the scope is quite broad, anywhere from just some small data set, which is pretty common, to a very complete piece of research. So the question about introductory or in-depth. So for the science competition, you need to have original data. So that's not an introductory program. In the introductory programs, you only do a literature review. That's not enough to enter the competition. You need more than an introductory program. So you do need to be doing in-depth work where you're collecting original data. So right now you have maybe 6, maybe 8 months to complete that work. It's a lot of work to get done if you haven't started a project. You need to get working on it pretty quickly, but it is definitely possible to do enough work in the time that's remaining. I see a note from a student in grade 3. So the program is open to grades 10 and 11. However, if you're a younger student than that, feel free to contact me. I'll be glad to speak with you directly about your work and where you're at, and see whether you're really ready for the competition. There are students. We do occasionally accept younger students. Keep in mind you're working with university faculty, you are presenting, so you need a lot of skills that are more typically developed in the later years of school, but we do occasionally accept younger students. Next question is, to what extent is the research expected from us? So you must be presenting your work. This competition does not allow entries of students presenting other people's work. You must be presenting your own work. So the work must be something we'll be following the standard conventions of science and publication, APA, meaning you must have conceived the work, you must have created the work, you must have done the work, and you must have analyzed and written up the work. So you must be the person who did the work from beginning to end, in short. This competition does not accept work done or presentations done by others. The emails again, oh yes, absolutely. And I'm gonna type them into the chat window so you can see my email. address. So it's robert.malkin@duke.edu. It's in the chat window right now. And if you wanted to ask questions about the competition, you can email me at Duke, it's fine. Or the applications for the competition itself should go to my IRI email, robert.malkin@iri-nc.org. Let me back up and see some more questions here. I appreciate all these great questions. Somebody says, will you allow me to do any research, as I'm the youngest one here? For the competition, any area of science is accepted. And typically the student chooses the area. Now, keep in mind, many students will have mentors. We recommend mentors, actually, because they have the experience to help you get the research done. The mentor can be a teacher at your high school, or you could come through a program like IRI for mentorship. And the mentors are going to have areas of expertise. So your mentor may focus you down in an area that matches with their abilities. However, you are not restricted. You can enter with a piece of research from any area of science. Question, is a research log required? Well, that is a great question. So all research must be documented. In fact, if you don't document your research, it's not research. It's just a hobby. All research must be documented. The traditional documentation style is a logbook. Over the years, of course, now almost everyone, including myself, has moved to electronic logbooks to keep up with their data and to keep up with their work. And the expectation would be you would also use an electronic logbook at this point. There are many, many, many ways to do this, from simply using Google Sheets and Google Docs. There's nothing wrong with those tools. They're publicly available and free. To very sophisticated logbook tools, to proprietary, secret, and high-cost tools. You don't need to do that. The free tools are perfectly fine, and most of the students in my lab are using, in fact, free logging tools. But you're going to need a logbook. If you don't document it, it's not research. Next question is, can we use data that someone else has collected? No, not for this competition. For this competition, you must do the work. There may be other science competitions where you can present other people's work as part of the competition. I'm not aware of those, but there may be. But not for this competition. You must do the work for this competition. So you must conceive of the work, must design the work, must conduct the studies, analyze the studies, and present the studies. So for this competition, you must do the work. In a team, it's quite acceptable, or by yourself. There is a question about using the same project from other competitions. So somebody has done the Regeneron competition. Absolutely. It is perfectly acceptable to use work that you've already started and perhaps have already entered in other competitions. In fact, that's very common. It's very common for faculty to use the same work multiple times for different conferences and different competitions if they're entering competitions. And it should be common for high school students as well. There's no restriction here. So if you presented the work for a high school paper, or you presented the work at a competition, maybe in your city, or maybe even in Pakistan as a nation, that's perfectly acceptable to present it for this competition as well. Is the next question, is there any restriction on the number of team members? This is a really great question, and I think some scientists struggle with this. I know that there are projects, big physics projects with 100 team members and things like that. The problem is that's very difficult to manage. And very often if the team gets larger than about 3 or maybe 4 students, it becomes pretty difficult to figure out what was done by whom. That's not all that critical for the competition, but keep in mind that is super critical for your college application. You need to be able to identify the piece of work that you uniquely did for the research and describe it, discuss it, answer questions about it. So although there is no restriction, you can have a team of any size that you want. We don't recommend teams larger than 3 or 4. And generally, the successful teams only have 2 people. And again, it's a management question. There's no restriction. You can have as large a team as you want. It just becomes difficult to manage. So we don't recommend any larger than 3 or 4. The more successful teams generally have 2. Next question is, what materials are we supposed to submit? Again, the only material you need to submit is the abstract. That's April 15th, 2024. It's a 1-page abstract. Contains your introduction, methods, results, and discussion, as well as the names of your teammates, if there are teammates. That's all you need to submit. Now, if you're a finalist, you'll be notified if you're a finalist. And then you'll also need to present for 3 minutes and prepare for 7 minutes of questions about your work. That's it. That's the only materials that you need to present for the competition. For the good question here, I didn't mention this. What are the deadlines for the IRI program? I'm glad you asked that because I forgot to mention that. If you do decide to use IRI, remember we offer an introductory program. That's a short program to get you started. We offer the RA program. That's the in-depth program. That's the program where you would actually do the original research, something that you could use for the competition. And for the finalists of the competition, or even actually somebody who comes along, does great work, and wants to move it a little farther along, we offer the data to publication program. So the deadlines for those programs are rolling. In other words, you could join the IRI programs right now. You don't need to wait till after the new year or anything like that. We have openings right now in those programs. Keep in mind the data to publication program is intended for those who have completed the competition. So that's for students who have already competed. So that would be of April or May of next year. But the introductory program and the RA program, that's the short program and the longer program, those are open right now, and you can join those programs right now. Are there any age restrictions to enter competition? There are no age restrictions for the competition. You should be in grades 10 or 11 to join the competition. However, we do occasionally accept younger students. So if you are younger than that, feel free to reach out to me and I'll talk to you about your situation and discuss entering the competition. There's a question. What should a student from C1/8TH? Unfortunately, I do not know what C1/8TH means. So I don't think I can answer that question. If you want to type another question in the chat window with a bit of clarification, I'll be glad to try to answer that. There's a question about why can't grade 12 students participate? That's a really good question. So the anticipation is that grade 12 students are preparing for their college entrance exams and their college applications. So they're simply too busy to be applying to research competitions. And also the competition will end too late for them to participate in, for them to use it for their college applications. However, I do want to point out that there are grade 12 students who are not immediately going to university after grade 12. So if you are not going to university immediately after grade 12, either because you have another year of school or because you're taking a gap year, for example, or for whatever reason, you can absolutely write to me and I'll discuss your situation to you, and you may be able to participate in the competition. Just want to make sure the point here for grade 12 students, the point here is we don't want the competition to interfere with your other activities. That's why we don't encourage students in grade 12 to participate. However, if you can convince me basically that you can do it, and it will be helpful for you, then absolutely older students can participate as well. A few more questions here. Somebody's asking whether I can hang on after the session. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to hang on after this session is over. However, it's no big deal. If you want to talk to me, just send me an email. I will set up a time to talk about your particular situation and whether you're older or younger, your particular research. I'd be glad to discuss your research specifically with you to see whether it's a good fit and to discuss where you're at and whether it's competitive. Just send me an email. It's no big deal, and we will set up a time to talk. Here's a question for someone in grade 8. If you start working now for the abstract, what programs and methods do you recommend? So grade 8 is a little younger than the competition. So first of all, if you're interested in applying in April, then you'd be younger than the competition entry deadline. So I certainly would strongly encourage you to write to me so that we can discuss your entry. But in general, the methods and programs that I recommend are what you're passionate about. Start with something that you are truly curious about. Think about, what are you reading? If you pick up science or pick up nature or pick up PLOS One or some other science journal, and you read through some of the articles, which ones really grab your attention? Which ones are you super interested in? Which ones do you wish you knew more about? In fact, that's one of my recommended exercises. Write 20 questions about things you wish you knew about your area of passion. If you can write 20 questions that are difficult to answer, you can't just find them on Google or Wikipedia or something, about an area, you probably are passionate about an area, and you should be doing your research in that area. You should be looking for mentors in that area, research questions in that area, using methods from that area. When you're reading papers, you'll see what methods are being used by other scientists. So you'll start learning the methods of your passion area. So my recommendation is figure out what you're passionate about. Figure out what really grabs your interest. That is the methods and programs you should be interested in using for everything, including your science competition. Next question is how to get connected with a mentor. That is a really good question. So I do have a separate YouTube video. You can go to IRI's YouTube channel and watch my video on how to find a mentor. They can be very difficult to find. A live in-person mentor can be very challenging. And your second option is to use a remote mentor. IRI arranges for a mentor for you if you go through IRI to find a mentor. So you apply to IRI, you do some interviews, essays, some other things, and then we will match you with a mentor. So you have both choices. You can go out yourself and find a mentor. As I mentioned, IRI has a YouTube channel, and you can look at my video there about how to find a local mentor. It is difficult, very difficult. Or you can go through an organization like IRI, and we will help you finding a mentor. Next question is, what sort of resources can we use for research, internet or otherwise? So just to be clear, each area of research has its own methods. So if you're doing research in biology, it's not going to be using the same methods as if you're doing research in science, as if you're doing research in engineering or in mathematics. So each area has its own methods. And therefore, each of them use their own tools, including for online research or remote research. If you are passionate about an area, you'll be reading the papers in that area. That's going to be a requirement to compete successfully in any science competition. That's the introductory program. Remember, that's what you do in the introductory program, is develop that passion, do the literature review. That is the point of the introductory program. Then you'll be reading the literature, and you'll understand their methods and what they have been using. But it's going to be different for every field and for every area of endeavor. Again, this is something that a skilled mentor can really help you get through and understand, is what are the methods for my area of passion. Great question. The next question is, can you get your mentor locally? Is that accepted? Absolutely. I recommend local mentorship if you can find it. It's very difficult to find local mentorship, but if you can, that's the best. So you physically are going to meet with the mentor, you're in their lab, perhaps doing the work in their lab. They're going to, first of all, have the lab equipment, graduate students, everything, but they're also going to be there with you to help you complete the research. So if you can find local mentorship, absolutely. As I mentioned, I have a YouTube video on this. You can find that in the IRI YouTube channel because they are very difficult to find. Local university mentors are very difficult to find. Next question is, do you recommend 8th class students participate? So the program's open to 10th and 11th students, grades 10 and 11. They typically tend to have the skill set and training required to be competitive. If you're younger than that, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll discuss your situation with you and whether it's really worth your time, whether you're really going to be competitive in the program. What are the benefits to participating in competitions and science competitions? Let me mention a few. Of course, the obvious one is you could win, and then you win money. Money is always good. You'll also win international recognition for your work, including discounts to IRI programming. But participating in science competitions is valuable for other things as well. Faculty as well as students find that having a deadline really gets you motivated to get your work done. You also are comparing your work to others in the field. Remember, when you apply to college, the primary thing that admissions offices are doing is comparing your application to other people's application. But you rarely get to do that at a competitive level for an engineering or a science entry point at a university. So competition allows you to see where do you really stand in the competition. And it really gets you sort of your first potential measure of, I'm not actually all that competitive. I really need to step up my game. Or just the opposite, confirming that you are already at the top, and so that you should expect to be very competitive. So there's a lot of benefits to entering a science competition, and I recommend them across the board. Somebody asks, are we allowed to participate individually? Yes, the primary or the most common science competition entrants are individuals, but teams are welcome as well. Let's see, question about answering, when do I answer my emails? Don't worry about it. You can write me an email at any time that you want, and I'll get to it when I get to it. Don't worry about that. Let's see. Question about whether I am a mentor. Absolutely. I am mentoring 4 high school students right now. If you decide to come through IRI, we help match you up with a mentor in your field, in your area of passion. So you won't necessarily, of course, match up with my interest area, biomedical engineering and medical equipment specifically. But we have mentors across the entire range of science. The next question is, research is the key to humanities projects, so better research will focus more on humanity. That isn't the way research works. So research should be fundamental understanding. So the goal of research is to create knowledge. It's not actually to apply that knowledge. Engineering is the field that takes research knowledge and applies it to solving human problems. Of course, I'm an engineer, so I'm very biased. I think engineering is an awesome field. I really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed my career for 3 decades, 4 decades almost. 4 decades, actually, not almost, 4 decades. So I really love research, and I love engineering, engineering being the application. But research is the creation of the knowledge, not the application of the knowledge. So for this competition and for research in general, no, you don't really focus on humanity, you focus on knowledge, creating a new bit of knowledge and disseminating it. If you want to get written details regarding the competition, you can contact Ion Ivy. They have some research materials that you can obtain through Ion Ivy, written research materials. You should also, by the way, feel free to reach out to Ion Ivy to discuss many of the questions that are being answered here. They will also help you answer those questions as well. There is a question about history or geography. Of course, geography is an area of science. It's one of the hard sciences, definitely part of the competition. Geography is a super interesting area, the geosciences in general. History is absolutely an area where you can do work for this competition. All areas of science, including science history, are absolutely included in competition. Science history is a super interesting area. IRI does not actually support science history, so we won't be able to find you a mentor, but that doesn't mean anything for the competition. You are welcome to enter the competition with science history, anything related to science. It's a science competition, so anything related to science, including science history, is welcome in the competition. Human sciences, sports nutrition, human sciences and sports nutrition generally both fall into the category of biology and are very welcome in the competition. And in fact, IRI has both sports and nutrition scientists. So if you decide to enter that area, you could also apply immediately, if you chose to IRI's programming and get mentorship support for both of those areas. Another great question, and I think we'll be close to wrapping up this section and the questions. Is there a recommendation? Is there a word limit recommended? I'm sure you know the famous saying, which is sometimes attributed to Descartes. I would have written a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time. The shorter you can write it, the better. You have one page, you only have one page. Typically, students who can combine or condense their work effectively are more competitive. So the fewer words you use, the better generally. But you do need to completely cover your science. So you need the introduction, the methods, the results, and a discussion of the results in your abstract. So you need as many words as it takes, nothing more than one page, however, to describe those parts of your research. So there's a question about talking to me live, about exchanging ideas. I would be glad to speak with anyone who's interested in discussing their research. Just send me an email, and I'll be glad to set up a meeting with you, and we can talk about where you're at, what you're passionate about. If you just want to explore ideas, just wanted to remind you all, the IRI Introduction to Research program, the first 3 or 4 meetings, so roughly a third to a half of the program, is focused on developing your area of passion, figuring out a question that you should be focused on. And you won't just be talking with me, you'll have a graduate student as well that can really help you with one-on-one, many hours of meetings and work focused on developing your question. So if you want a quick chat, just to get kind of some quick feedback from me, feel free to email me directly, then I'll be glad to set up a meeting with you, talk with you for a few minutes about your work. If you really want to develop your idea, you really want to move it forward, you really want to develop your passion area, I recommend IRI's Introduction to Research program. That's the program where you really can spend some time getting your ideas refined into something that might be competitive and also might move your college application a little higher in the competition. So guys, I want to really thank you for your time this afternoon. Great questions. You guys asked some really great questions. I just want to remind you that you can feel free to write to me. Again, it's robert.malkin, exactly like my name, at Duke, my university, .edu. So robert.malkin at duke.edu. You can also write to my IRI email. That's robert.malkin@iri-nc.org. If you're interested in finding out more about IRI, you can always go to iri-nc.org. And I wanted to remind you that you can always reach out to Ion Ivy as well. They can help you with any questions you might have about the competition, finding mentors, your college application. I know all of these topics can be complicated, and having a skilled college counselor can really make a difference in your college application and your success and happiness in your final participation at a hopefully competitive US university. So again, thank you everyone. Thank you very much for coming this evening, this afternoon. Aram, I think you're muted. I don't think I can hear you.
Yeah. So I also want to thank you for dedicating your time to your students, your insights, and your expertise. They have made a significant impact on our event, and it's a true honor to have you here. And now the students can brag that they have had the privilege of meeting a distinguished real-life scientist. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It has been an honor.
You're welcome. Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
You have a great day. Bye-bye. Bye.